Alright, everyone, it's very funny because the left is still rambling about impeachment right now. It's like, yeah, at some point you're going to have to give up the shtick because there's nothing impeachable in the Mueller report. The Mueller report exonerates Trump of the only main charge that you ever made against him. The idea of obstruction is sort of the low-hanging fruit that they've gone to. Like, well, he made mean tweets about Mueller. That's obstruction of justice. Oh, we had Jeff Sessions say crazy shit to the American people. That's obstruction of justice. No, it's not. It didn't affect the probe in any way. Mueller himself saying so. Mueller's like, yeah, Trump was an asshole. Being an asshole is not illegal. Supposedly. No, I would say this. What's going to happen, I expect, some of the Democrats will go forward with their impeachment stuff because they're feeling pressure from a grassroots base to do so. Like the Elon Omars, if you've got a far blue district where like 80% of the people there are partisan Democrats and they're like younger, there's like the Starbucks crowd, you probably feel a lot of pressure to come out and say, well, maybe there's something impeachable here. And these people are vicious, they're like hornets. So they won't let you go with like waffling around, like pulling a Mitt Romney on the other side when Romney says, well, Trump sickens me, but, you know, there's nothing illegal here, I guess. You can't do that anymore. The far left is very self-righteous. They don't understand political strategy. They're idealists, not pragmatists. So what'll happen is that the people that they've put into power, they will crucify if they don't come out in favor of impeachment. However, the mainline Democrats are not so gung-ho about it. Some of them even come from red districts. They're like, you know, some lifelong Democrat. They get elected 30 fucking years ago, and they're still sort of there because they play nice with the Republicans or something. They don't want to take guns or raise taxes, so they're sort of tolerated in an area that would naturally be GOP territory. These people are under way more pressure because the national debate is disparate from their state level or their regional debate in that sense, especially for people in the House that represent a district. It's a little bit different from a senator, which, by the way, is by design. Some people are fucked up about redistricting and stuff. Don't worry too much about it. It's been gerrymandered by both parties for a long time. The idea that Trump is going to be impeached for making a mean tweet or for, within the scope of his authority and the law, telling Jeff Sessions to say stuff that wasn't true to the American people is hilarious. If you were to impeach him, he wouldn't get removed from office for doing so. The idea that it's somehow terrible and horrible and abnormal for Trump to do that with Jeff Sessions is weird anyway, because that happens all the time. Dude, he's a politician. The fact that he was investigated for 2 years to the tune of $30 million, and they found basically nothing associated with him 3 or 4 steps removed, is actually astonishing to me. It's actually astonishing to me that you didn't find a bunch of criminals gathered around him, because here, you've got a multi-billion-dollar New York City magnate. Okay, that's trouble right there. He rubs elbows with Hollywood. He rubs elbows with DC. He is on good terms with certain people in the Kremlin, although not in the sense of collusion, which, by the way, again, as a businessman at the time, perfectly legal. You'd think that he'd have a lot of dirt around him. He should be more like the Clintons. He should have, like, fucking mafia members hanging around him. Apparently, that doesn't happen. I don't know how he manages to be successful while doing so. Maybe he's got some even worse people working for him that are just even more efficient. That is possible. I mean, he did make a lot of money. Let's not even kid ourselves. Yeah, I mean, the fact is he's had to deal with slimy people, and we can be assured of that, but for a hostile report not to find anything is pretty abnormal, I would say. So either you can get really suspicious about that, which I'm not really, or you can say, well, I guess Trump has tried his best to avoid conflict outside of the boardroom, which I think is commendable. But you're not going to be able to impeach him for anything that he did. The report came out. The Attorney General comes out and says, yeah, he's fine. Rosenstein, who signed off on the fucking probe in the first place, lest you forget, and lied straight up probably to Congress about it in order to save his ass, he doesn't have any problem with the Mueller report. You know, and again, I guarantee the reason why Rosenstein got up on stage with Barr in the first place, looking uncomfortable, admittedly, of course he was, is because he was told in no uncertain terms, we're going to take your pension away and fire you if you don't get up on this fucking stage and undo the damage that you've done. Because the real obstruction here is the obstruction of the intelligence apparatus of the Trump administration as part of a weaponized probe that was largely promulgated for partisan purposes. It was literally based on a dossier compiled by Clinton's people. How much more partisan can it possibly get? I don't see any obstruction by Trump. Oh, he made a mean tweet. Tweeting at someone is not obstructing. Let's say you get hauled in on like drug possession charges or something. You're out on bail, and then you take to Twitter and you say, oh, basically fuck the police or something. That is not obstruction of justice. It's protected by the First Amendment. Yes, Trump can come out and tweet whatever the fuck he wants. And by the way, we get a separate story about Giuliani comes out and they thought that he was making mistakes or something, talking about the hacked Clinton emails, which is like anyone under the sun could have taken them. Don't fucking kid me. We're going to have to talk about that separately because it's also a funny issue. And it ties in with the same thing, which is people are trying to hold Trump fundamentally to a different standard than anybody else would be held. These same Democrats, if the roles were similar, like let's say that instead of Donald Trump, it were some random African-American youth or a Democratic politician that were being subjected to a 2-year, $30 million probe that turned up nothing. If people complained and bitched afterwards about how, I know that he's guilty in my mind, don't you think they would go foaming at the mouth angry? In fact, there have been cases like that before. Look at the O.J. Simpson trial. In that case, he actually was guilty. But it's like, eventually fucking get over it. You know, you can't just put someone on perpetual trial. You can't perpetually investigate someone if you don't have any probable cause to continue your investigation. If they get a warrant, they're looking into someone, they find absolutely nothing, there comes a point at which a judge is going to smack them in the cock and say, okay, enough is enough. You said you had probable cause. Well, you don't have any evidence of anything. There's no crime. And you can't retroactively justify your own probe by continuing to dig forever in the vain hope that you're going to find something. I am still slightly surprised that they didn't find some little bitch-ass little thing to nitpick about, like jaywalking or a traffic fine or something like that. Trump spit on the sidewalk in Massachusetts once. It was a big problem. Donald Trump, once he mooned somebody from Trump Tower, and so we're going to get him on indecent exposure or something. I'm surprised that they didn't try to legitimize their own probe, their own partisan probe by that. And the thing is, I don't even think that it's Mueller primarily that was the problem. Rosenstein a bit, which is why he was up on stage. Mostly it was a breakdown, a systemic breakdown of the system which is normally employed to gain such a probe. It was a systemic breakdown. You had an op research document. It was taken seriously, but what happened, it appears, is that partisan members of the intel community, mid-level FBI agents, took it, and they fronted it to their higher-ups. Their higher-ups took it seriously because it had been stripped of its proper attribution, which was, hey, this comes from the Clinton campaign. I don't think that at that step anybody knew. It had been scrubbed of that attribution by partisan individuals who wanted to cause chaos, namely people like Sturzak. Yes, I think that probably happened. I believe that it is likely. From there it goes to the FISA court. FISA court is a rubber stamping court. It's not a stopgap measure at all. 99.9% of everything that comes before them they sign off on. So that's basically, they shouldn't even bother having a FISA court. Just have Rosenstein sign everything. He won't even read it. It'll be about as accurate as the FISA court because he'll just fucking sign. He signed it. He tells Congress he can't even remember whether he read it or not. He's either totally inept and should be fired, or he's totally corrupt and should be fired. They probably told him as much and said, get up on stage though and we'll let you have your pension. You'll be able to retire in the normal way. We're not going to fire you like we did, that other loser, and you can at least keep your money, like McCabe there. And then it goes, and it, becomes a probe. And then Mueller, once he realizes, I think, what happened, he's like, oh, come on. You got to be fucking shitting me. I don't think that Mueller was the mastermind of everything. I think he was a reluctant actor in all of this. And he realized probably after the fact, months later, that the probe was a bunch of bullshit. And I think he probably talked to these people in a rage, and he's like, look, you're going to help me to legitimize this. Some people owe me some fucking favors too. Hey, Democrats, cover my ass. Because I have no choice now but to pursue this to the end. And so I'm going to have to dig into all these other people and find, Manafort and Flynn and some of these. Flynn's not even, I think, still in a jail cell. What about Roger Stone? What's happening to him? I think he's still out on bond, too. Nobody fucking cares. They didn't do anything wrong. Oh, my God. He talked about his trial during, there's a gag order. Fuck your gag order. Gag orders shouldn't even be issued for the most part. It's a damning process. Oh, you're not allowed to defend yourself in the public square against basically defamation. Doesn't make any sense. Should strip judges of the ability to issue them except when there's an underage victim or something like that. Who did Roger Stone victimize? His political opponents, maybe. I guess he victimized the Clintons by helping keep them out of the White House. Fucking good! Yeah, it's a good thing for our nation. That's about all. Peace out.